Hello, the internet. Jason Rocket here. Just wanted to shoot a quick little prologue here before we get into the unboxing, unwrapping. Um, I actually shot this video over a year ago in June of 2020. So I do make reference to something that happened earlier in the year, namely the death of Stan Kirsch. And it is actually earlier, it was actually January of 2020 that happened. Um, uh, and I just wanted to not only mention that, also that in the time that's passed since shooting this video, Arms and Tactics has become even harder to find and even more expensive if you are able to find it. So I think I managed to pick these boxes up for about $30 or $40 each. They almost never come up for bid anymore, and when they do, they usually sell for over $100. Also, since I shot this video, I reopened my my online store, which sells Highlander cards, thediscardpile.com. So you may be better off just buying singles from my store than hoping to find boxes and buy them, because they are quite hard to find and quite expensive these days. Alright, that's all I really wanted to say, so let's get on with the video. And today we are going to do an unboxing slash unwrapping of my favorite dead CCG, Highlander the card game. This is a box of Arms and Tactics starter decks from 97 or 98, I think. I'm pretty sure it's 98. I think they had like 3 or 4 sets come out that year. So this originally retailed for $119.40. So I just recently picked this up on eBay for $40, which is actually a pretty good deal. Arms and Tactics has been out of print for years. I was still able to get it fairly regularly from a wholesaler till about 5 years ago, when it just kind of vanished. This set came in boosters and starters. Boosters, it seems like, are harder to get these days. Starters will show up occasionally. So we're gonna open this whole box and see what we get. This set sort of revolutionized the game. It added something that felt like the game needed from the very beginning, and that's the weapons of choice. It added weapon pre-game cards, as well as cards to go with them. And they made the weapons work kind of like the Persona cards, and that they were pre-games, and they had powers of their own. And they let you use in-game cards for that specific weapon as well. Alright. Okay, so most of the rare cards are toward the back here. This was not a particularly well assorted set, which is something you can say of just about every Highlander set. I have gotten Arms and Tactics starters that have like 3 or 4 rares in them. I've also gotten ones where like half the deck was rares. So my rares in this one is Callus's Insurance, the Katana Sword's Lightning Reflexes, the Katana Sword Weapon of Choice, and Luther's Master's Attack. So I'm going to make a stack for rares, and then I'm going to make a stack for persona-specific cards that aren't necessarily rare, as well as weapon-specific cards. Okay. So, and that I don't think that's a rare, but I think it's an uncommon. And it's important to usually all the rares are at the same place in the starter decks. But there's also sometimes when there's an ultra rare, it'll just be inserted in a random part of the deck. So, alright. Not a great pack. At least I got a weapon of choice. And for those of you who haven't seen a Highlander card game before, this is the normal back. These are called in-game cards. But there are pre-game cards that have image on the front and text on the back. And these will, like, enhance your powers. They all all the pre-games sort of bend the basic rules of the game in favor for you. And also, they let you use in-game cards for that specific weapon. Persona cards basically work the same way. It was something that weapons were something that was missing from the game, but it wasn't obvious. Everybody was just basically assumed to be using a generic weapon up until this set came out. But once the weapons of choice came out, it was kind of like, yeah, this is something that's been missing from this game, and we didn't even particularly know it up to that point. But it really changed how the game was. And once there was a second edition of Highlander release, there were weapons from the very beginning in it. Okay, so looks like my rares here are, oh boy, Canis rares. Leader of the Pack, Master of the Hunt, Master's Maneuver. Let's see, some Martin Hyde cards, Pokemon. Yeah, I'm just very roughly sorting these into piles. Nothing super exciting in that set, in that box. If you're building a Canis collection, though, that's pretty good. 3 of his rare cards. This is my favorite dead CCG. Some would argue that it's not dead because they're still releasing Versus sets occasionally. Or at least as of a couple of years ago they were. But it basically is. It basically is dead. When the second edition came out, they sort of followed the living card game model. So they just basically release fixed rarity expansions every few years. Okay. Let's see, looks like these are my rares. Twist for the Gladius. Swashbuckler for the Rapier. Richie's Master Attack. And, oh, again, this is Richie. Was played by Stan Kirsch, who died earlier this year. Committed suicide. Very sad, as he's the character. He was sort of the apprentice character. He was like the kid figure to Duncan MacLeod on the series, so it's kind of like he was almost like the audience surrogate in a way. You kind of watched him grow up as the show went on. Very, very sad to hear that he had died. Very sad when the character dies in the show too. That probably should have been really like the end point of the series. Yeah. So when Highlander the card game was current, it was really hard to find in my area, but it was the funnest card game that I played. So I started picking it up years later when I started finding it through wholesalers really cheap. Every now and then there would be a tournament or something around here, but I could never get a hold of enough of it to really be competitive in the tournaments. So I would just go to a tournament and get massacred. So it was not a particularly fun time, but it was one that I liked to play. Ooh. That's a fairly rare and formerly expensive card. I don't know what it's worth now, because I've not seen one in years sell on eBay, but I'm actually going to set that off camera here. Yeah, this is a crystal. This is a pre-game card, and there are certain cards that you have to include in your deck. They're called basic attacks and blocks, and these cards will actually let you leave those cards out in favor of other attacks and blocks. Yeah, so they actually change the rules of not just how the game plays, but how decks are built. Let's see. Pretty sure I think that's a rare. I'm not sure though. Pretty sure these are rare. Can't believe I have not pulled a Persona card yet, but most of them are, well, actually all of them are rare. There's even generic immortal personas, but the generics are still rare. So, yeah. You don't necessarily have to have a persona to build a deck if you're building a generic immortal. But there are persona cards for generic immortals. Paul Kinman's 9mm, the saber weapon of choice. Paul Kinman's contract killer. Let's see. Persona specifics. weapon specifics, focus, more Paul Kenman cards. Yeah, so this, unfortunately, one of the worst things about the Highlander card game is it's one that you basically had to, hoard it to build competitive decks. And while that's arguably true of any CCG, it was really super true of Highlander. Because it took me nearly an entire box of starter decks before I even had like a playable deck. And it took probably about 12 boxes of boosters before I had like a tournament quality deck. And like some of the best cards for building tournament quality decks were actually tournament prizes. They were the quickening cards. So back in the day, those sold anywhere from $50 to $80 each, depending on how powerful they were. And so it was something you had to pour just a ton of money into to be competitive back in the day. Here is the Gladius weapon of choice. A rare card for cured one. A rare location, and here is the cured one persona. Each persona had their own like different background, and all the cards specific to that persona shared that background. But yeah, so this would like a particular rare card from Highlander, you might only find like one or two of that particular card per box. But if you want to build a tournament quality deck, you might need 6 copies of that card. By default, you can use 6 copies of a card in a deck. There are restriction numbers. So cards that are restricted, you can't use rather than full 6, you can only use the restriction number on them. In this case, you can use 2 of this card. But yeah, if you had a rare card that you needed 6 of to build a particular deck, you might end up having to buy like 3 boxes of boosters before you've got enough copies of that card to build the deck. And if your deck requires cards from multiple expansions, you might end up buying 3 or 4 boxes of each expansion before you have what you need to build your deck. So you might buy like 20 something boxes. And here's what I mean about the assortment process. This is the exact combination of rare cards in the same order that was in the first starter deck I opened from this box. Callous Insurance, Lightning Reflexes for the Katana itself, and Master's Attack for Luther. Now That's the thing, though. Sometimes you'll get what they call a God box, and half of a starter deck will be rare cards. Now, a lot of the time when that happens, though, you'll end up, and it won't just be that way for one deck, it will be that way for the entire box. A lot of the time when that happens, though, you won't get any uncommons for that box. You'll just get rares and commons. So, well, yeah, it's great to get all those extra rares. A lot of the times the uncommons are a lot of the toolbox cards, the ones that you basically need for every deck. It's not necessarily the rares. Yeah. So here we go. Oh, more Cured One cards and another Gladius. Well, I kind of like that because the weapons of choice do tend to be some of the rare cards. So the more of them I get out of this box, yeah, the happier I'll probably be. Because this was the only expansion where the weapons were available. This was the next to last expansion, I believe. I believe it was Gathering, then Arms and Tactics, then Four Horsemen. They came out in such rapid succession, though I'm not 100% sure on the order. I know Four Horsemen was last, but I'm pretty sure Gathering was first. Man, I hate cleaning up after these unboxings. Alright. Ooh, this is a good Martin Hyde starter deck here with Martin Hyde's Master's Trick, Stalk, and the Martin Hyde Persona itself. And at some point I do want to do like a tutorial slash like gameplay video for Highlander, since it is my favorite, and yeah, it's kind of died out, so don't know that anyone else will do it on the tube of you. So just sort of for historical purposes, I kind of want to make sure it's documented. But yeah, I'd say probably within the last 5 years, this is probably the third box of Arms and Tactics I've been able to get at a decent price. Like it's okay. So here is a generic Immortal Persona card. Normally, if you're building a generic Immortal, you don't need to have a Persona card, but you can't use any Master cards. So through the use of a generic Immortal Persona, you can use 3 Master cards, and in this case, this one also has lets you increase the restriction of weapon-specific cards in your deck. Then we got 2 Cured One cards, or Master's Attack and Master's Dodge. Oh man, only 2 decks left. Hopefully I'll get another weapon or two. I'd like to get another gold card, preferably a crystal, but I don't know. Usually there's only one gold card per box in this set. Here is another generic immortal. This one's power lets you, instead of using the basic attacks and blocks, you can use, I don't know, this is not the one I thought it was. You can use any number of, include 3 reserved immortal specific cards in your deck. For each one, your master card limit is reduced by 3. Alright, last one. Let there be something really good in here. Come on. Oh, random upside down cards. That's weird. Alright. Okay. So, a Master's Block for Callus. Both dual attacks for Parrying Blade and Parrying Blade. Weapon of choice. So yeah, that's weird. So that's one of the rare weapons of choice with 2 cards for the same weapon of choice. Well, I said that if I got a lot of weapons of choice, I'd be happy. And I did get, I'd say above average. I think I got 6 out of 12 decks. So one in every 2 decks. I think that was right. Let me double check. Parrying Blade, Gladius, Katana, Gladius, Saber, Katana. So yeah, 6 weapons of choice. Pretty happy with that. Yeah, all around good box. Glad I bought it. If you enjoyed this unboxing and would like to see more like it, like, subscribe, do all those internet-y things. Click the bell for notifications. Tweet me on the Tweety box. Find me on the Facey Space. And check out my Patreon, patreon.com/KittenGumbo. This has been Professor Rocket, and I'll see you next time.